Hello, and welcome to An Evening with Bullshit. My name is Bob Barker, and tonight we're going to be covering a topic that is controversial both nationally as well as globally. It's hot and it's cold, it's yes and it's no. It's global warming. Joining me here today is Stormy Ratman, all the way coming from us from Denver, Colorado. Emily Barnes from a little town in Connecticut. Danny Rapture, as well as the one and only Sarah Palin and Bill Nye, the science guy. All right, now Stormy, let's start us out with some global warming. As far as those CO2 levels, what are you thinking?
Well, the Arctic region has been warming since 1966-2005 due to cyclic events in the Pacific Ocean and soot from Asia darkening the ice. But there has been no warming since 2005. Current temperatures are the same as in 1943. The small Palmer Peninsula of Antarctica is actually getting warmer, while the main Antarctic continent is actually cooling. Ice cap thickness is both in Greenland and Antarctica are increasing.
All right, now with all those stats said, Bill, what are you thinking? You like what he said? You don't like what he said?
I'm sorry, Stormy. Apparently, you weren't listening to my science videos in third grade because what you said is it's bullshit, man. I mean, I've been telling you that in third grade. It's bullshit. I mean, don't you remember what I told you? The one thing to remember is that the atmospheric, isotopic atmosphere has been increasing due to all the increase in CO2. And it's just making the temperature rise up in correlation with the CO2. I mean, it's third grade stuff here. Yeah. I'm sorry, Stormy.
Bill Nye's calling you out. Stormy, what you got anything to say back to Bill?
I mean, I just don't really remember that. I was too young, probably.
Wow, Bill, just not appealing to those young people, I
It's
guess.
common.
Coming back to the
grade
Netflix
stuff
series.
here, Stormy.
Wow, okay.
Sorry.
Well, Sarah Palin, based on what he said, what are you thinking? Do you agree with Bill? You guys got any arguments against him?
I completely disagree. I have something to say about CO2 levels, and CO2 cannot be the cause of significant global temperature changes because all of the predictions of global warming are based on computer models, and those computer models were changed to fit with the designer's expectations that global warming is real, which is not.
All right, Bill, she put you on the spot.
I'm
Computers.
sorry, but you must be looking at Trump's computers or something because global warming is a real thing, and there are tons of examples about it. I mean, the Great Barrier Reef even, it's been reduced from 1,400 miles of Great Barrier Reef to 912 miles of Great Barrier Reef. That's a huge reduction in the scope of things of how much CO2 has been affecting the atmosphere.
So do you know that if there's any growth at all? You said there's a lot of...
No, it's all reduction.
It's all going down?
Downhill.
All going down, okay.
Yep.
All right, Sarah Palin, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that it is not based upon Trump's computer. It is based upon the designers of the programs that are used to chart the temperature changes that may be happening, and that the adjustments can be made to look make the numbers look like they're 25 times greater than they actually are.
But with that argument, you could say that they could be 25 times reduced. And in addition, you admitted to there are some temperature changes. So that goes along with what I was saying before with the rise in CO2. It's correlating with the temperature changes on Earth.
But why would our scientists make the numbers look like they're less than they actually are?
Being a scientist, I can tell you that we make them as straightforward as we can because 99.8% of scientists believe in global warming and want to put out straightforward numbers in order to get the facts across.
But there are also scientists who may be financially given a certain amount of money that they could change their numbers around.
You could argue that on both sides. You could say that scientists are given money to change the numbers around, saying that global warming doesn't exist, yet the outcome is 98.8% of scientists, they believe in it. So,
They believe in it and they report on it.
yep.
All right. So, Emily Barnes, what do you feel
Well,
based on what they said?
there shouldn't even be a discussion on this right now. It is a fact that global temperatures are rising. In fact, over the past 250 years, the average global temperature has risen by 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Doesn't sound like a lot because that changes in Wisconsin from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, but on a global scale, guys, it's gigantic. And 1.5 of those degrees have changed in the past 50 years. So it's kind of, it's rising exponentially. We have to be worried. These are facts. It's written on my note cards. So there's absolutely no disputing this. I don't know why we're discussing this right now. There's not a discussion. These are the facts.
All right. So it's real. Bill Nye says 98.8, was it?
Yep,
Percent of scientists
98.8.
say it's real. But there's still some people out there, like those 1.2%, who say it's not, and that it's completely false, and all these records are either being bought out by Trump's computers or some other form of incentive. Now, Danny Rapture, bringing this around to you, with all that we got on the table here, all these note
One
cards.
thing that we can really agree on is that 100% of scientists would agree that temperatures are constantly changing. And so while there may be some slight changes in temperature that we're seeing, we've got solid facts right here that the glacial mass is actually increasing in some areas. So temperatures are totally variable everywhere. And I think I'm going to jump on Sarah's train here with scientists maybe manipulating the data to benefit themselves, job security. Because where temperatures are measured, they're all measured at weather stations, and they just happen to all be kept at relatively the same altitude. And they're all near metropolitan cities because that's where we've developed. And so all of these temperature measurements that scientists are taking, I'm sure they mean well, but what they're actually doing is they're measuring temperatures that are in the most affected area by human population near city centers. And so, of course, the temperatures that they're seeing are rising. It's just the same thing as if you were to put the thermostat right above the heater. Like, of course, it's going to say 70 degrees all the time, but when you're in your bedroom, it's actually 65 and you're freezing your off.
All right, some good points there. Now, we're kind of bringing this around to you, Bill. So he said that people are putting the temperature in the wrong place, obviously. You say 98% of scientists are on board with this. Now,
98.8.
98.8, I'm sorry, technical error. Now, aren't scientists given recognition based on the results? So if they were to give a negative result saying that global warming isn't a real thing, would you argue that they would not get that recognition or that award or that grant anymore if they said, no, it's not really a thing?
To a certain degree, but it would be an end of the grant if they're publicizing false facts. But I want to go back to what he said there's 100% of scientists agreeing with there's temperature change. And being a scientist, I completely agree with that stat, but it's not just temperature change, it's that the temperature is increasing. That's the main point here, is that it's not just going down and going up, it's strictly increasing. In addition, you said that there is some glacier growth, which is true, but there's more glacier loss than glacier growth. So I think it comes
that's
down
just
to the
usual
full
flux.
perspective, not just zooming in and going on just, that there happens to be some glacier growth when really it's just an ice machine making more ice cubes. I mean, you have to look at the full picture.
Right, but you're essentially on a roller coaster with your eyes closed. You don't know when the next drop is going to be.
It's been consistent
Temp-
increase in temperature over the years.
And we've been here for how many years?
Exactly.
Compared to
And
how
we're
many
not
years
gonna
has
be
the
here
Earth
much
been here?
longer.
What about
We've been here so long,
what
we're
about
not
the
gonna
last
be here
like
much longer.
3 winters when it was like a full week just all below zero?
You're looking at a specific location, and that has to deal with there was basically in the there was a draft wind coming from the south to the north, specifically in the United States during that time. You're looking at a specific time, specific location. You need to look at the big picture. It's kind of like how he said that glaciers are increasing. That's just zooming in one area and taking one little fact. You have to look at the full picture.
Well, that's because all the scientists say that the glaciers are melting, but really they're not.
No
But,
one,
but they are, though. Have you seen the images on the internet of the polar bears
I do
sitting
not.
on icebergs,
I do not
and the iceberg
Google
is
polar
just
bears.
melting
So
around
no.
them? I don't understand how you can say that the glaciers are moving forward and growing and whatnot when you see those pictures of polar bears hanging on for dear life on their only patch of ice for miles around.
I would just like to say too, I've never seen a polar bear. So
That's also, I've never seen a polar bear.
have you guys seen polar bears?
Have you
I
been?
mean, I went to the zoo this one time. But
But that's because
polar
they're
bears are
kept
not
in
in our regions,
captivity.
though.
Yes,
polar bears are not in our regions.
They used to be,
they used to be.
but now they're not because it's getting hot.
It's getting hot.
It's getting hot.
Sarah Palin, what are you thinking about the getting hot? No more polar bears.
I see them all the time up in Alaska.
Well, they're in Alaska. They're in Antarctica. Really, we don't know what's going on. So tonight's been an evening with bull. And we're going to go over our references real quick before we do conclude things today and give you the real take on how we feel about global warming. Sarah Palin, start us off.
So my viewpoint was that global warming is not a real thing, and I got my information from Breitbart.com.
My viewpoint is that global warming is a real thing. I have a bow tie, so you should believe me. Got some scribbles here and a blank piece of paper as a reference.
I was also for global warming being a real thing. My references are from that sheet that you brought to class. I don't know where you got it from though.
The internet.
The internet. I guess that's weird. And a little bit of appealing to emotion with the polar bears.
I was against global warming, and my first fact was from the internet, and the rest was bullshit.
I also was against global warming, and I made everything up.
All right. Well, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the evening.